Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Tuesday, January 4th. We've got some interesting articles to bring your way, particularly about DeFi, which really has been, the story of the second half of 2021, looking like it may continue that momentum into 2022 here. We'll talk about that as well as some Bitcoin price action, some Bitcoin sentiment, and a whole lot more. Before we dive into things, CJ, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Monty. Thanks for that intro. And yeah, I think DeFi is going to be quite interesting. We've seen some positive price action out of Curve Finance, CRV, as well as Yearn Finance, YFI in the past couple of weeks. So we're going to look into the tokenomics of those two tokens and kind of see why that surge has occurred. We're also seeing a large increase in layer ones while Bitcoin and ETH kind of remain stagnant here. Really, the names that come out are, Phantom, Near Protocol, Harmony One is doing very well also. So really a lot to discuss and break down here as the market kind of rebounds. But overall, how you doing, Monty? You're muted.
Apologies. Yeah, I'm doing well. Besides being muted. But yeah, CJ, I mean, you're so right. The layer ones have been, the absolute story of the second half of 2021. And now we're seeing that continue to disperse. I mean, look at Phantom. This thing has been absolutely on fire in just the last week. Also, we have other protocols like Atom performing tremendously well over the last, 10-day period, Near Protocol. So it seems like this trend is continuing into 2022. But one thing that I think is interesting to note now is how, you know, Ethereum DeFi almost seemed like it was dead for a little bit there, CJ. Solana, AVAX, Luna, all were seeing so much speculation, while Ethereum's DeFi protocols were seeing, little to none. That's starting to change now, though, as we have assets like Curve Finance, like Yearn Finance. They made some changes, and now we're starting to, as a result, seeing, increase in speculation, some very, very positive price action, even relative to that of Ethereum. So let's start off with Curve Finance, or which would actually, I'll toss it to you. Which would you like to start off with, Curve or Yearn?
We'll go with Curve. But I will say, I don't think that small users are using Ethereum or Curve in that sense. I think that this is, and once I go into the article, I think it'll be more clear that it's whales who are competing for supply and are contributing to this constraint in supply. So really interesting article. Definitely recommend you guys read more in depth on it. But CRV extends rally as the Curve wars intensify. More and more protocols are building off of Curve, and an entire ecosystem is emerging engaged in the so-called Curve wars, one CIO said. So if you haven't heard of CRV, it's basically the governance token of Curve Finance, decentralized exchange. And I think it's pretty interesting that over 86% of the token's $3 billion supply is then locked up in various DeFi or decentralization, protocols. And so basically what's going on is that you need that CRV to then lock it up as VCRV, which then gives the ability to affect emissions in these liquidity pools for these large whales who are acting as liquidity providers. So there's basically this land grab going on where a lot of these larger players are attempting to get as much CRV as they can so that they can make future decisions about the emissions and the rewards based on some of these liquidity pools. I believe there's a quote in here. So one of the major powers given to CRV holders is the ability to change gauge weights, which determine the amount of Curve rewards allocated to each pool on Curve. So, I remember when Monty had showed a statistic about the average transaction size on Curve on Ethereum, probably like a month or two ago, being $400,000 to $500,000. So you're seeing these whales who really want Curve because they want to have control over those emission schedules going into the future. So you're seeing the supply constraints with the 86% locked up supply, and it could get quite interesting. I'd say, yeah, one last stat, and then we'll move on from this article. But it has to do with all of the Curve and Convex owning nearly half of all V Curve. So this is one larger entity really trying to take control, and it's quite interesting the effects that we're seeing on like the constraint of the supply as well. So keep an eye on Curve. It's been trending. It's up. So interesting stuff there.
Good stuff, CJ. And yeah, Curve's not the only, DeFi native to Ethereum that's actually seeing a bit of speculation here. Another one that, we've been talking a lot about, I know you've been studying a lot about, Yearn finance over the last week. That thing has been absolutely on fire. We started covering it a few weeks ago. We saw a pop in sentiment. That was likely the result of the announcement that they'd be switching things up in terms of the way their DeFi protocol operates. CJ, want to tell us a little bit about what's going on at Yearn Finance, what Andre Cronje is up to over there, and how those changes he's made have really influenced the price of the token itself?
Yeah, the really cool thing about DeFi is that Andre, being the builder of Yearn, really took that DeFi ethos. And when he created Yearn, he just released all the tokens and didn't take any for himself. And now they've done kind of a re-tokenized structure where there will be new coins printed, but the current demand that we've seen has really offset a lot of that. It's to fund projects that will improve Yearn finance and ultimately with the hopes of bringing new users on board. And so, if you guys have time on your own, I've definitely encourage checking out this article. YFI Reborn as a Black Hole basically explains this entire story of how the tokenomics, were when they launched, where how Andre basically just gave them out to the community. However, now they're restructuring that. It's contributing some bullish demand and supply dynamics. And it's something that I think is definitely worth a read. But as a result, we look at Yearn and how it's performed here in the last 2 weeks ever since this announcement came out. And we can see the impact, not only from a sentiment perspective, but also from the supply perspective, where we have, a bunch of volume, a lot of new interest coming in, and an increase of about 93% in the following 2 weeks. So interesting price action in both of those DeFi protocols, as we've had pretty lackluster price action in things like Aave and Comp and Maker all throughout 2021. So it'll be interesting to see if Yearn and CRV can turn that around in 2022.
Yeah, absolutely, CJ. And it's pretty amazing to see how, changing just some elements of the tokenomics, changing the structure in which you dole out those rewards can really, really impact the price of the token. And I think that, like you talked about, it's becoming a black hole in the sense that, the supply is starting to decrease less and less, which is obviously a positive impact on price. But ultimately, I think that when you have an asset like Yearn Finance, what is most important is that the rewards are going back to the community. And I think that Andre does a great job of incentivizing, this protocol to be, most of the rewards of this protocol are going back to the community. It's not going towards things like marketing, other things like that, and I think that is a very important thing to look for, is where these rewards are going to. And in the case of Yearn Finance, much of it is going back to the members of the community that hold the tokens. So in that sense, it's created a very favorable, supply and demand dynamic there for Yearn.
There are a lot of like communities and companies that make tokens that are like very extractive in terms of taking value away from their communities,
Yeah.
And making money off of their own communities, when Yearn is really not doing that. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's
Monty,
it. Go ahead.
no, I'm done. I thought you had some to share about Bitcoin or others.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to hit this one headline about Polkadot, because while we're on, the DeFi sector here, I want to talk about Polkadot. Polkadot, this headline broke this morning. I think it is very important. Polkadot gets DeFi building block as DEX aggregator Finance migrates from Binance Smart Chain. So this is very important for DOT. And let me just quickly pull up the DOT chart, because it's important to take a look at, this absolute cascading price action we've seen since the local top here in November. This one has been hit hard. There's a lot of reasons why it's been hit hard. One, people have been speculating into other layer ones like Luna, like AVAX, like Solana, like Phantom, and not necessarily putting their capital into Polkadot. Another thing that CJ has talked about in the past is that before 2021, China was very, very bullish on Polkadot. Lots of trading of this asset took place in the Asian region during Asian trading hours. And as a result of the crypto mining ban, lots of Chinese retail traders had to sell their DOT before year end, putting this heavy amount of sell pressure on the market during these final 2 months. But ultimately, I think what was the biggest thing that kept DOT from running was the fact that there just wasn't necessarily any genuine utility in terms of smart contracts, in terms of DeFi use cases. It just wasn't there for DOT yet. But now that's starting to change as they are moving DOT finance off of Binance Smart Chain and moving it over to DOT. And this has been a long time coming. We've talked about DOT's parachains in the past. Moonbeam is the second of DOT's parachains. And this is going to be very, very important because this will allow DOT to finally begin to start, accruing some of those metrics of total value locked, allowing users to participate in the ecosystem and really bringing on value beyond speculation. We've talked a lot about how total value locked plays a role in price action. And if we look at Polkadot's total value locked since that peak in November, it's been steadily decreasing. You compare that with something like, Luna, their total value locked looks the exact opposite because they have a legitimate DeFi protocol that is allowing users to stake their capital, lend, borrow, and earn yield. That just doesn't exist right now in Polkadot, but it is coming. And I think that this could potentially be a catalyst for positive price action if this is a successful launch. I think people will really start to stake and earn some passive income on the DOT chain. So I'm going to continue to watch the Polkadot total value locked relative to the price action because I think that this will be a very important metric going forward. As you can see here, we're actually already starting to see an increase. I think that in the coming weeks, once DOT finance is officially migrated, we'll see a really large uptick. So I'm going to continue to watch this in terms of TVL because I think that it's no coincidence that DOT's total value locked and their price action has more or less been, the exact same since the top here in November. So this could be a catalyst for positive price, but we'll have to watch that TVL metric. We'll have to watch if people actually do start to use the DOT chain, start to use these parachains, and participate in them like we see in other chains like Luna, like Phantom. So exciting stuff for DOT. I know a lot of members of our community have been holding that one, so hopefully that brings in some positive price action. But that's all I got for the altcoin. CJ, any comments on that article?
Just compare it. It makes me think of the comparison. Obviously you have DOT and Kusama that are doing really cool stuff. But also you have Atom in that same sector of like parachain type blockchains where, the entire Terra ecosystem is already built on Atom, and as well as Thorchain is being built on Atom or Cosmos. And, there's just a lot of value being created there. And that, as DOT's one of their main competitors, I guess you could think of it. It's just really interesting to see that momentum really start to build in Atom. I think people are kind of waking up to the fact that there's so much value being built on that particular ecosystem within those subnets. And I'm not saying that value like that, comparable to that, won't be created in Polkadot in the coming years. I think it will. I just think Atom does have a little bit of a head start in terms of like what's actually built relative to Polkadot. Now, how that plays into the value of the token is kind of a different question. Nonetheless, I think it's interesting to notice. But overall, I hope you guys have a wonderful day in the world, wherever you are. Good morning, good evening, or good night. But regardless, Monty, I'll leave it to you here, sir, for the final word.
Thank you, CJ. Yeah, I hope you guys are having a great day. If you guys would like to join CJ and I in the crypto community, you can do so at the link right below me, markarbellion.com/trycrypto. You can try the first week for just $7. We have a pro charting service, a 24/7 chat with a community of traders from all around the world. We publish actionable trade insights with entries, exits, stop losses. A couple were published over the weekend. We'll be talking about those in our Doge of the Day just after this, I'm sure. But also we have, an education curriculum with extensive content covering DeFi, NFTs, everything you need to know to get started trading crypto. So definitely head over there and check that out if you have not already. Also, thank you to Voyager for sponsoring this show. If you guys are looking for a place to hold or trade your crypto, we recommend you check out investvoyager.com. You can earn a 12% interest on assets like Polkadot and 10% on USDC. So head over there and check them out. And if you do, use code Rebel25 when you sign up for $25 in crypto. But that's all we got for today. Join us for our members only Doge of the day right after this. But have a great rest of your day and take care, everyone. We'll see you again tomorrow.